to it. We never got involved in abductions.
Were there reports of abductions back then?
Yeah, but we never got involved because our main approach was hardware. Even the body functions weren't our approach. Of course, we got into the brain and some of the muscles because one of our approaches was, can man travel in space? Right here. We found out he can't. We started radiated food because of this, the back door. And no food, and our astronauts would need food. I ate a steak. Trudeau and I went to the quartermaster, and they served us a steak that had been on the shelf for 2 years without refrigeration. In those days, it worked pretty well. But the AEC, or the nuclear people that scare the daylights out of you, held it back. You know. And also, there's evidence every time we try to move a nuclear thing out in space or something happens to the carrier. Or I list all that in my writing. That one.
There was something that you mentioned about now you're talking about nuclear bursts in space.
And there was 2 items. Let me tell you what they were.
Okay.
One of these I made public. Maybe I shouldn't have. The Russians exploded their monster bomb in the Pacific.
Where in the Pacific?
Actually, Siberia. But it knocked out all our communication in the Pacific. At the time, the newspapers wrote up as 100 megaton. It wasn't. It was 60. Big enough. Knocked all our communication out. Now, the other one was, I had access to one of my clearances. Or maybe you, I don't know if you know about this. There's a special intelligence group at the Pentagon, where when you go in that room, and it's covered around, you can't take notes or write. They put the papers on the desk. Mm-hmm. You look at them, and that's it. Yeah. Well, since I had a type of photographic mind, I could remember things. So one day, when the colonels was in charge of the area, there was a brigadier general there, walked past me, and I got him by the arm and said, "Hey, when are you going to brief my boss on the satellites that the Russians have knocked out?" He said, "What are you talking about?" I told him, "It's here. It's in here." And he got a little bit alarmed.
But what time frame was this?
This was I was with Trudeau then. 1960.
60, okay.
So, 61 or 60, 61. So, about half an hour later, the general in charge calls me, and he was an old friend of mine. I told him, "General, you know me, I'm not here to cause you trouble. But if you don't brief him, you should brief my boss. You're in charge. I shouldn't brief him. You should do it. Because it's your job. Coming from you, it's better than coming from me." Oh, Trudeau would believe me, but you have all the data and all the facts in your files, and it's there. He said, "Well, I believe you." So they called me back about 3 or 4 days later. He said, "We're ready to go." "Good, I'll fix up a conference with the general." What the Russians did, they fired an atomic shot in the air, one of our satellites. But they missed it by 250 miles. The satellite was out here, and it went right. And I had some powerful friends like John McCormick and Eastland and Dirksen, Nolan. You remember him?
All right, what was your service number?
0104-7930.
What was officer? You went in, you said, and you went straight to OCS?
No.
You were drafted?
No, I was drafted. I went to, after basic training, I went to Edgewood Arsenal. And there they sent me to the anti-aircraft school in South Carolina, or North Carolina. I went to the anti-aircraft school and became second lieutenant. Came back, they sent me to Camp Ritchie. I joined the 9-minute battalion. They sent me to Camp Ritchie. In Camp Ritchie, they picked me up, gave me an interrogation team, and sent me to England, which is a good thing. As soon as I got to England, the headquarters didn't know what to do with us, so they gave me to the British, which was one of the best things that ever happened to me.
So your branch was artillery?
Artillery, yeah.
Okay. Condolences.
Mm-hmm.
I'm infantry, that's right.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So, and I went through the landings and everything in Italy. I went through 2 landings, Anzio and Salerno, and I was in North Africa. So the British I was very fortunate that tour with the British. I got some good training there because they were the experts in those days. They used to call us and say, how green is our ally? And then later, though, they said, damn, they learned fast, though. They said, one general told him, Brigadier General, he said, you've made so many innovations now that they said that we get stuck with tradition.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Was there any indication that the Russians had access to any
Yeah.
UFO type stuff?
They tried to, Stalin gave order to collect everything from Roswell. They believed it
But
happened.
what about anything that might have occurred inside the Soviet Union? Anything like they had a crash or there was something else, or are they just after ours?
Well, there were some crashes there that they claimed, but we never had much information on them. CIA was not in the business of collecting that information. They didn't give a damn.
The incident at the missile base.
What?
The missile base that was basically wiped out.
Well, we
Did
knew
they
about it
provoke
wiped out. They didn't announce it until after about 3 or 4 months after we knew it. Generals and all, the technicians killed, wiped out.
Did we
And
feel
it
that
was-
they provoked it somehow?
Yeah, it was very mysterious the way it all happened.
How did that happen?
We don't know for sure, but it was a mysterious thing.
It wasn't just
And
that
they
one of
never-
their missiles
They
blew up
never,
on the
no,
pad?
no, they never gave any explanation. And we were all suspicious.
Was there something we could ask about now?
We could. Oh, I wish we would.
We just haven't? Or?
We haven't. We didn't even ask him if when I sent this friend of mine over, I asked him to ask him about UFO material. The KGB general. The KGB general says, "I know exactly what you want." He just asked him a question. He said, he said, "You want me killed?" He said, "They'll kill me immediately." He said, "There's a special group that's in charge that has all that information."
Were there similar incidents on our side where missile bases were messed with? I mean, did it?
No, the flash thing.
Maybe not blown out, but-
Astronauts. The thing is, the deadliest one that I think was when the UFOs were seen over, what was it, where the control was of the underground silos? All the guidance systems went out at one time.
This is U.S. now.
Yeah, and UFOs were over the area. Our guidance systems went out. We couldn't fire a missile.
When was that?
Oh, I forget what year it was. I have it in my writing someplace. I don't know the year now anymore. It was at the late 50s, I think.
Do you think there's an organized group in the present time that's tracking this?
I wish there was, but I don't think so. You take your reputation in your hands. Wilbur Smith warned us about that. Don't try to explain anything. You don't have the answers to all the questions, and they'll type you.
Well, for example,
They
you
did it
said
to him.
you didn't feel there was a cover-up, but then you also mentioned that Phil Klass being paid by the CIA. Was he paid to do this kind of stuff? I mean, and if so, would there be
When
some?
you work for somebody and you get paid, and what's his expertise? His expertise is debunking. And that's, I told you, intelligence, you don't go to prove it in court.
So would
The actions prove, and known he was paid. In fact, when I was up in front of 2020, I told the producer that a lot of newspaper men in the 50s were on CIA payroll because they didn't make much money then, some of the big ones. And the producer came over and told Tom Gerald, Tom, he said, next break, ask the colonel this question about the newspaper men that were on CIA payroll. Tom, it was logical. In those days, they weren't making much money and CIA was paying them. I told him, well, this was well known.
Right.
And they won't even deny it. I told them. It was a well known. The newspapermen were on their payroll. They got
Right.
paid. They got expenses and overseas. CIA financed it.
what I mean is if CIA were paying Klass or anyone else to debunk, and it seems like there really is a debunking effort of
I
some
never
sort.
got any information out of CIA on flying saucers. And I was at the White House.
Did you ever ask?
Oh, no, I never did ask. Because I was told by friends in there that no use. It's not there, and then what they got is not worth anything. So I figured, why bother? What could I ask them for? What could they say? We don't have any? And then, I won't get in that position. I don't have to. we had what we wanted. We had our hands full of what we had when I was in R&D, not at the White House.